Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon, where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story aired, one episode a day. And today, on the 21st of September 2017, we are starting The Savages, which is an entirely missing story from Season 3 of Doctor Who. And, what I have to say is that it's kind of sad that this one's missing, because from the first episode, we seem to have a lot of firsts. This is the first story written by writer Ian Stewart Black, who I believe will be writing a couple more stories down the line a little bit. And it is the return of Christopher Barry to directing. I believe the last thing he directed was The Romans in Season 2. And it's a shame that's missing, because his direction is usually pretty good. So I think we can have an idea that it is pretty good. And it's also the first story to have an overall story title and have the episodes just named episode. This story being, of course, The Savages. Which I think is an interesting little decision. I kind of would have liked to see what this story was if it had its individual titles, because that sort of seems that's just sort of an interesting convention, I think, that should be explored a bit more than just what we have right now. So, but other than that, let's get on with the actual Savages. So, the plot itself, it's of the first episode, it's a very much an introductory plot of the Doctor, Stephen and Dodo, landing on this planet. The Doctor going off. Instead of being captured they are escorted to a city after seeing some of the titular Savages, because this is actually they aren't, and Dodo seems to think they're in the Iron Age. They are not. They are actually in the far future, where we have this society, and I really like what Ian Stewart Black has done with this society. Like, even though again this is only on audio, and I am watching Loose Cannon's reconstruction, and it's a pretty good reconstruction. It's just they just don't do any CG or anything. There's some interesting things done here. Mainly, a lot of the ideas feel like it's taken out of Brave New World, with this whole perfect society where everybody has what they want. It's much different. It's not an Orwellian future. This is more Huxley's future dystopia, and we obviously see that there are very much cracks in the society. The people in charge, mainly Jano, I'm guessing he's going to be our main villain. He basically shows the Doctor, oh, there's this machine. It sucks the life force out of people and gives it out of the Savages, because the Savages are dumb. I find it interesting that the Doctor goes along with it. It seems, because that seems just a little bit out of character for him so far. Because he always seems to admire all life. Now, this is sort of honestly, it's kind of an abhorrent process. They're creating this life force, and they're doing it to extend their own lives, which is it's very, very selfish, and very interesting to see sort of what the Doctor seems to be planning, because I haven't quite figured it out yet, because there's got to be a plan there. You have Stephen and Dodo taking off. Dodo's still, as usual, Dodo's being an idiot, because she's Dodo, and she doesn't really know much. I mean, we get the cliffhanger is a savage lumbering toward her and attacking her, a savage inside the city, who has had some of his life force drained. That's the cliffhanger at episode 1, because he just sort of sneaks off, when there's really no reason for her to sneak off. I think it feels very much just like, well, we're at the end of the episode, so yeah, let's just put Dodo in danger and call it a day. And that's very much a problem. I also have to say, a lot of this episode is done through silence, so you do kind of lose some of the effects, and definitely some of the tension is lost when it's just a telesnap and then text scrolling across the screen, because I want to actually sort of see what I'm looking at. Again, that's something that really just, it doesn't work as well, because the format we're in is so limiting. I also have to say, a lot of the supporting cast, they're introduced, but we don't get... I think Ian Stewart Black is trying to introduce too many characters at once. They're like 15 named characters in this, I think. I maybe only remember a couple. I remember what some of them look like. I remember Jano because the actor who plays him is kind of over the top, and that's really about it. So I'm gonna give The Savages episode 1 because it's a very very good, solid start to the story, and it has a lot of places we can go. It just doesn't quite know quite where I don't quite see where we're going yet. But yeah, it's gonna get a good score of an 8 out of 10. It is now the 22nd of September 2017, and I just finished watching episode 2 of The Savages, and I have to say we've taken a bit of a dip in quality since episode 1. The ideas are still there. It's still a very Brave New World, and we actually, Brave New World type idea for a story, which is not a bad angle for this story to be going towards. I'll admit that right off the bat. It's a very, very good way to get the story started and interesting. It's just episode 2 is has a sort of a middle portion of the episode that just drags on way too long. The ideas that are mainly good are the fact that the Doctor actually sees the society for what it is, and William Hartnell plays the part with with a very, very good. He's giving a very good turn as the Doctor in this one. I think Christopher Barry's direction probably helps that a little bit, just because Christopher Barry really knew how to keep William Hartnell as the Doctor really strong, as so to speak. He knows how to coax a really good, strong performance out of Hartnell's Doctor, which is something that was always a bit of an interesting thing to see happen, just because it didn't always happen. It didn't always work out quite that well, which is really, so it's really, really good to see this director taking the Doctor in hand. And the supporting cast is still great. This time we actually get to see more of the Savages, and we start to see they're not quite bad after all. I mean, the Doctor doesn't even know if they were bad at all, but he immediately in this episode is like, no, you're not going to, I'm sorry, I'm not going to facilitate this society and praise you if you're sapping the life force from these Savages, and you won't give them your intelligence because they are just as good as you. It's a very, very good, strong opening for the Doctor, really taking a stand for what he believes in. And I can't help but really enjoy the way that William Hartnell plays the Doctor here. It really just sort of feels like here we have the character as he's meant to be, with this whole righteous fury and almost an indignation for everything. Dodo really is a non-entity in this episode, which is kind of sad because, that's what we've sort of gotten from her. That's also a big problem. Here's the problem, is that the middle is just sort of wandering around trying to save a Savage's life, and let's be honest, it really doesn't go much anywhere. It really doesn't pick up until really the cliffhanger, where the Doctor reveals that it's revealed that the Doctor is going to have his life form strained and put into someone, and that's where the episode ends. And that is a really, really solid ending to this episode. Don't get me wrong, I really, really do enjoy the end of this episode, because it knows precisely how to hit the right story beats and things to give us the Doctor in a very vulnerable position, as well as a position just so that he can actually cause, I guess, some change in this world. And I hope he does. It leaves you. The cliffhanger is a really good, well executed cliffhanger, even on the audio. Like, you have this great these great sound effects in the middle of it that I really do enjoy. It's just the sad part. It's just the only sad part is that it's just the episode in between isn't nearly as interesting, and it just doesn't go anywhere. There, I said it doesn't want to go anywhere to give us this interesting perspective of the world. But yeah, that being said, The Savages episode 2 is still a good enough episode. We aren't in bad episode territory yet, and I'll be interested to see where it goes from here. So I'm going to give episode 2 of The Savages and a 6 out of 10. And I'll be back with episode 3 tomorrow. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 23rd of September, and I just finished watching episode 3 of The Savages, which is a marked improvement over episode 2, because here we actually seem to get the plot really rolling. We have the Doctor's life force being sapped, and there's still many, many flaws, mainly because there's quite a bit of a runaround with Steven and Dodo, which is, let's be honest, a real problem with this episode. Like, why would you just have this runaround in caves be the main focus of the episode for quite a bit? Especially when you have some interesting ideas present in the episode that just aren't explored as much. They'll hopefully be explored in the next episode. Of course, by the quote-unquote interesting ideas, I am talking about the Doctor getting his life force sapped and transferred into the leader of the Savages, Jano, and a big chunk of the episode is devoted, not quite enough, I don't think, to Jano basically being the Doctor. He has started to act like William Hartnell's Doctor would, and it's really interesting just to see it happen and see this change come over this character as he's no longer just the villain that he has been set up to be. He's almost changed by the experience, and I really like it. William Hartnell sadly doesn't have anything to do this week, but Frederick Jaeger really plays Jano really well here. He knows how to make the character feel like it's basically he makes the character feel like he's a character that would be, I guess, evil. Cause that it's just he sort of he does this very nuanced performance. I have to say it's very good. I really do like where we're going here. However, there are a couple of things. Again, you have this run around in the caves, which doesn't do much. We get some pretty good characterization of the Savages themselves. They're all interesting. I have to say they're not necessarily the most 100%. We have these characters and we know how we're using them, but we have enough just to suggest quite a bit from them that they are. Again, they're most definitely, they reveal themselves to be much more than just, they're more than just savages. They have they have a society that is very much formed to be a society, and they are worthy of the Doctor's respect that he gave them in the last episode. That is really what this episode proves with them. Sadly, and we have Steven, when cornered by an elder, actually pick up a gun and shoot him. And you have Steven, basically you have Steven being an proactive character, while Dodo is just sort of being this inactive character that doesn't succeed at really getting anything done in terms of her characterization. She just sort of is there to exist and almost, I don't want to say look pretty, but she's kind of there just to look pretty and be like, look at me, I'm Dodo. I'm an idiot. I have no real reason to be in this story. So it's something that is really, really sad, because Dodo probably deserves better. Let's be honest. She could easily be a more proactive character, and a character that she could also just be a character that gets more to do than the writing seems to allow, because you don't really get the feeling that Dodo is living up to companion material. Let's be honest, she doesn't. But that being said, I'm gonna give The Savages episode 3 a 7 out of 10, because it is an improvement, but we aren't quite back to the levels that episode 1 was at. We have and that means we have one more episode, episode 4, which I will be watching tomorrow. So until then, see ya. It is the 24th of September 2017, and I just finished The Savages with episode 4, and the quality has dipped again. Really, everything just... My big problem with this one is that everything just sort of wraps up too nicely. That is really the only place that I have a big complaint with this story, because everything's all wrapped up, and it's great that it's wrapped up, but it wraps up too early, and we just sort of keep going for a little bit, so that's the Savages and the Elders are going to work together now, create a new society, which is great and all. It's a really good conclusion. It's a very hopeful message, and I very much enjoy the ideas of hope conquering through. Something is just a theme that I really like. It's a good theme, and don't get me wrong, it is a very good theme, and the episode does the theme masterfully. It's just the problem that the message, there's just not a lot to get interested in this final episode. William Hartnell's back, barely does anything. Stephen leaves, which is very touching. What's nice, though, is that there's quite a bit of footage that exists. Nowhere near as expansive as, say, Galaxy 4 Episode 1, but some 8mm camera footage just happens to exist from this episode, and that's just fascinating to look. And it gets a really good idea that this episode would have probably looked really good, which is really a shame. Like, you have this really fun thing where the Doctor just helps destroy the machines, and it's something that really William Hartnell excels at. He is great at doing this destruction. But other than that, The Savages episode 4 just doesn't have nearly as much to draw, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. That being said, as we finish the story, we now can average up the scores so that The Savages gets a 6.75 out of 10. Thank you so everybody for watching. Please leave a like, comment if you agree with me or disagree. It doesn't really matter. Because I do read the comments, and I will definitely try to start responding more. That's one thing that I'm going to try to do. And I'll see you next time on the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon, when I take a look at The War Machines.